item 10, as she is a committee member for the Nairn Book and Arts Festival.
Okay, thank you for that.
It's just mentioned in the papers, but I've only gone on that this weekend. So those decisions were made previously. But just to be transparent about it all, so you're all aware. Okay.
No, quite right. Thank you. So, on that basis, there's no other declarations of interest or transparency statements. We'll move on to item 3, the recess powers. And the committee asked to note that the recess powers granted by the Council at its meeting on the 29th of June this year did not require to be exercised in relation to the business of the Nairnshire Committee. So that's noted. So we'll move on to item 4, which is good news stories. I've got 3, although I've managed to limit it to 3. And the first one is the recycling centre. The feasibility study is going well. We've had meetings with the consultant, Brian Menzies, and the draft report will be here in the next week or two with a final report towards the end of the month. So that's going well and that's on course. The second thing is the local place plan. That's moving along promptly and Nairnshire to be congratulated for their efforts and endeavours. And that leads me into the third one, which was the Farmers' Show, where I actually met Nice with the local place plan team. It was a fabulous day at the Farmers' Show and everyone I spoke to was full of praise for a wonderful event. So all credit to the Nairnshire Farming Society for the hard work, creativity and professionalism. Well done. So, any other good news? Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, the first thing is that we now have the rollout of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits happening through Nairn. Although I've had a few adverse comments, most people seem to be very positive about it, which is good. It's pleasing to see that's coming. It'll be better when it's completed, because we still this quite the odd situation where, certainly in my road, I believe the 20-mile-an-hour speed limits aren't actually, strictly speaking, legal without the big sign at the entrance, but that will come. The other good news is that Team Hamish have got planning permission for phase 2. Obviously, that's not a Highland Council project, but that is on common good land. It's pleasing to see that because that's going ahead.
Right, well done. That's good news. Councillor Jarvie.
Okay, some are already covered. Congratulations to Nairn Academy students, onwards and upwards for them, and welcome to the new students starting in a couple of weeks. Happy anniversary to Queen's Park Residents Association, whose AGM is coming up. That has been up and running for a year and achieving great things, including picnic in the park. That went fantastically well. It was great to be there. And the local place plan also on show there with Nice, with their tent. They're really reaching out to communities, which was fabulous. It was a really great day, very professional, and went fantastically well. And I'd also like to say a welcome to the MacLean Court Residents Association. It was lovely to meet them, and onward and upward at them being included in the community. And we look forward to the Nairnshire Book and Arts Festival at the end of the month, which is full of exciting things. And of course, the Nairn Games, event of the year. So yes, okay, lots of positives.
Okay, thank you. Provost?
The only comment I have is, because everything's been covered, is that the shows are in and we look forward to some fun over the next 2 weeks and then the games.
Yep, okay. Good stuff. Okay, thank you for that. Now, in a change to the printed agenda, we're going to move to items 11 and 12 ahead of the fire report. So on item 11, I'll hand over to Tracy.
Thank you very much, Chair, and good morning, members, and thank you for allowing this item to be brought forward. I do appreciate that very much. As you hopefully are aware, unfortunately, Richard is not able to attend the meeting today, so I'm presenting his winter service plan report to you. So we'll move on to the report itself, and the service plan that is before you for Nairn is in accordance with the winter service policy, and the winter service policy sets out the priorities for treatment and the treatment target times. Primary routes are treated first, then secondary routes, and then all other routes as resources permit. The primary routes are the main and the local distributor routes, and those routes that have high frequency bus services. The secondary routes are the roads which connect smaller communities to the primary network and where there are service bus links. And then the other routes are serving the minor rural and residential roads. Now, as far as I'm aware, there has been no change to the routes as were those for last year, but the routes are given on the maps in Appendix A. The resources that we have available for the winter service plan in Nairn are detailed in sections 7 and 8 of the report. Section 7 details the staffing establishment. And you'll see there that we've got 8 roads operatives and a foreperson who are providing the service, plus the operatives are supported by a roads officer, an inspector and the roads operations manager. And then in section 8, you'll see that in terms of the vehicles that we have available in Nairn, we have 3 gritters and 2 footpath tractors. So the treatment times are generally between 6 in the morning and 9 at night, although when it's a public holiday, such as over Christmas or other bank holidays, then the start time will be slightly later at 8:30 a.m. And in addition to the services that the council provides directly, we also provide grit bins as part of our community self-help known as the Winter Resilience Scheme. And also just to advise that in terms of extreme weather, then we do have arrangements in place under our emergency services plan to meet with various representatives across the council who might be impacted by extreme weather, also including the police and the trunk road operatives. And the meetings are just to coordinate any activity or action as is necessary. So the winter service policy itself is attached, there's an appendix attached, and members are being asked to approve the winter service plan for the Nairn area today. So that's it by way of an introduction from myself, Chair. If anybody's got any questions, I'll certainly try to answer them. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Tissy. Very comprehensive report in front of us. I was fortunate to spend a few hours with Richard and on the roads and out at the recycling centre. And what he did point out was, and is of interest to folk locally, is that just outside the cemetery there is a monitoring station which has got video cameras, all sorts of sensors and various, which these type of stations are all over the Highlands, and the information is fed back in. So the decisions that are made via the gritting are done on an evidence base with a very comprehensive setup across the Highlands. So that was reassuring, and I didn't know about that. So when you're driving up to go to the cemetery, on the right hand side you'll see a monitoring station at the top of what appears to be a lamppost with no light. So thank you for that, Tracy, and I'll open that up and I'll say, Councillor Oldham, have you anything you wish to comment?
Yeah, I do. Thank you, Chair. You remember this time last year, this was our first meeting of the area committee, I think, and I was doing some screen sharing because I wanted to suggest some changes to the gritting programme in Lochloy Estate, and everybody agreed to those. However, subsequently, in a conversation I had after the meeting, became clear I got that slightly wrong, and I went back to Richard and suggested a small change, which he agreed to. However, I see the map on page 52 is still showing the old route through the estate. If I just share, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Give me a second. Okay, hopefully now you're seeing, if that's what you're seeing, a map of Lochloy. And if you look on page, if you look on page 52, you're in that little box in the corner in the blue, you can see that up here it has 2 routes through the estate, and in fact that's changed. The loop they're doing now is this loop up here. I don't think this is very controversial. I think Richard certainly was amenable to changing the map accordingly. But I just
Okay.
this isn't reflected in this mapping on page 52. I was wondering if I could mail that to you. Perhaps you could update the map to reflect that. Tracy, if that's okay.
Yes, yes, of course. Apologies, Councillor, I wasn't aware of that minor change, but
Okay.
I'm sure that if Richard was able to accommodate it, then that's fine. So please email it to me and we can confirm it after the meeting. Thanks.
Right, okay. The other thing is that I did have some, when we had the bad snow last winter, I had some comment from residents who lived in this area here. I hope, can you see my mouse? Sorry, I'm not sure whether you can or
Yes.
you can't.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Now, that area wasn't being gritted, which suggested to me that the driver was still operating on the gritting program that was before the program that was agreed last August. If that
Okay.
makes sense, which didn't cover this area. Now, I chased it up at the time and it was done, but I just wanted to ensure that this winter, the drivers, a horrible thing, the drivers don't look at the maps, they know in their head, because they've done it in years. There was a change last year, and I just have it didn't appear to feed through. So I'd just like to make sure this year it will feed through to the drivers that they do need to do this entire loop up around Lorry Drive and back down out again. Because this is a bus route, and it involves both school buses, the Old Durham Primary School bus and the service bus both use this route through the estate.
Okay, I'll certainly do that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll say I'll mail that to you.
Brilliant, thanks.
I'll just try and stop this sharing. There. Does that work? Are we back in there? Yeah.
Right. No, thanks for that, Paul. Appreciate it. Councillor Jarvie.
Hello, thank you for stepping in and going over that, Tracy. Much appreciated for a good report. My only query is with the new 20-mile-an-hour zone, which I'm getting good feedback on. Most people are welcoming it. I would agree with that comment. Is this is obviously going to slow down the timings of the gritting everywhere, because all the approach roads are down to 20, and you have noted that there are spare vehicles, but is there extra drivers? You know, you can only do it with so many people. So, and I didn't realise that on bank holidays the gritting didn't start till 8:30. That's going to make quite a difference on like weekdays, business times, school times, getting gritters out. So has that been factored in, this new 20-mile-an-hour zone, and the time scales on how the gritting will be done, how this is going to affect things?
In all honesty, I'm not aware that it has been factored in, and it is a very fair point that you make. Obviously, what I would say is that we are committed to delivering the winter service plan in accordance with the policy. So if it is impacted at all by the new 20-mile-per-hour schemes, then we will need to supplement the resource that we've got. Now, I can't promise right now that you'll get an extra gritter or extra men, because obviously this is something that's going to impact across the whole of Highland. Yes. But certainly we'll need to take a report back to the strategic committee if we feel that our resources need to be enhanced, or if not, the policy needs to be changed. But at the moment, we're saying that yes, we will deliver the policy for you next year. And if that doesn't happen, then we'll need to consider additional resources. But I think that would have to be as I say, a Highland-wide policy, because quite a few communities will be impacted by that. But that's a really fair point, and thank you for raising it, because I'm not sure we've actually factored that in just yet.
Okay, just it's just as I'm observing these things happening in the town, you just you don't realise till you actually see the workings of it. How many spare gritters are there, given that you obviously have a number for Highland, and where would the one for our area come on, given that not everywhere gets snow at the same time, but sometimes it is right across Highland? You know, it's
yes, no, we don't have a plethora of spare vehicles, to be honest with you, because they're quite expensive, and obviously keeping them maintained and ready. We're literally talking about a handful that are mainly kept at the Green Hill Depot in Tor, which is Russia, and also at Dairy Bucket in Inverness, but they will be deployed as and where they are required. We are, whenever a gritter is being replaced, we do look to see whether or not it would make economic sense for us to retain that gritter as a spare. So we are getting better at the number of spare vehicles that we've got, because once upon a time we didn't have any, to be honest with you. But you know, we are slowly building up that reserve, but there are no more than 3 or 4 across the whole of the Highland at the moment, I'm afraid.
Yeah, that's my concern with the 20-mile-an-hour thing. Okay,
Yes.
it's maybe something to take forward for discussion when Richard gets back. Right,
Certainly.
thank you for listening to that one.
Okay, no worries.
Thank you, Councillor Jarvie. A couple of points well made. Thank you. Provost?
No, no, that's just all covered.
Okay, on that basis then, the committee is invited to approve the winter service plan for 23-24. Approved?
Yeah.
Agreed?
Yes.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay. Tracy, thank you, and I know your enthusiasm
Sorry,
to give us a
Chairman.
winter service plan. Yes?
Chairman, sorry, before you, is Tracy also involved in item 11, which appeared to have skipped over?
Yes, that's the point. That's the point I was going to make. I said such was Tracy's enthusiasm, I think, to give us the winter service plan, that she forgot to take item 11 first. So,
My
Tracy, if you
apology.
could, you know, as I say, it was that enthusiasm to take the winter service plan. But if we can go to the item 11, the proposed deletion from list of roads of the McDermott's Road, Ardersier.
Right, okay, my apologies. I wasn't aware that we will be covering that today. I thought it was primarily a matter for noting. However, as you'll see, at your previous meeting, I understand that you deferred a decision on the delisting of that road because you had some concerns. And really, it's just to invite members to note that actually the Ardersier Port have since withdrawn their request to have the road delisted, so it's going to remain a Highland Council maintained road. So it's just to really to advise members of that. So that's not being progressed.
Okay, that's
Thank
fine.
you.
It's just to go through the process. So,
Okay. Sorry about
that's
that.
Noted, and thank you for that. No, not at all.
Sorry.
Tracy, thank you for that. And I
Sorry,
appreciate
Chairman, I do have a question on this one. We are
Okay.
meeting with them. We are meeting with them tomorrow. I
No,
noticed
that's been cancelled, Paul. Sorry.
Oh, is
when,
it?
when did that happen?
It's taken out of the diary.
Not in my diary.
No.
If I can
Right,
step in, Chair.
Lewis.
Thanks, Councillor Logan. We're looking to reschedule that meeting in the discussion with officer colleagues as to which strategic member and other area members would be best placed to attend it as well. I'm conscious that Ardersier Port development sits within Ward 17, not Ward 18, so although there's an interest in the development by yourselves in this committee, and there's other members that may be interested in attending. So we're looking to reschedule that once I've had a chance to discuss with officer colleagues as well. So further dates will follow. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
So can I go on to ask, there's some suggestion from the signs that have appeared on the A96. There's some works about to be done at that junction. Is that Highland Council related works, or is that Transport Scotland?
If it's
So
the A96, it would be Transport Scotland rather than ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I can make an inquiry though.
It
if
would
you'd
be
like
good,
me to.
'cause it's,
Right,
yeah, I'm
okay.
just intrigued to know what's going on, especially since they're now, I'm just wondering, since they've now cancelled the request to take back the road, whether or not they're doing it because they've had some suggestion they have some works done by some other means.
Okay,
But there's
all right.
there's those, you know, those matrix signs both sides of the junction.
Mhm.
There's nothing been displayed in them at the moment, so there's obviously something going on, but quite what isn't clear yet.
Okay, I'll make an inquiry and find out.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. And if you could feed that back to us, Tracy, that would be appreciated.
Yes, will do.
In a timely fashion. Okay, any other questions, Laurie, or points anyone wants to raise about that? It's just for noting. Okay, on that case, we'll move on to item 5. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Appreciated. Good. We'll now move on to item 5, which is, here we're going. It's the fire performance report, and that's from Station Commander Nick Nethercott.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, councillors. Good morning, everyone. Hopefully you all have with you then the prepared report which is provided for a performance report for the 1st of April 22 through to March 2023, which covers the activities of that period. We have in that time it's been a positive a report for us in terms of like fire fatalities were at 0 through the period. There was with only 1 instance of fire casualties during this reporting period. Obviously that's very low figures, which we welcome. During this year, the deliberate fires continue to be at a very low level as well in the area, and sort of low levels compared to figures across the Highlands as well. Our special services or road traffic collisions, RTCs are one of our more common special services. Again, low, with the total annual figures remaining comparable with previous years, but we do obviously continue to work with our partners and educational establishments to promote road safety to try and drive these figures down as much as possible. We also report on our false alarm, our UFAS incidents, our unwanted fire alarm signals. They continue to be at low level for the Nairnshire area. Obviously, we still continue to work with in partnership to try and eliminate these as much as possible. So if you've got the report there, obviously I'm very happy to take any questions you have regarding it and answer it as best as possible. I would like to add though that obviously with the reporting period being up to the year ending 31st of March 2023, it would probably be remiss of me not to mention the incident on Harbour Street, which has affected the members of the Nairn community so much, which happened in July this year. And of course, our thoughts are with all those in the community that were affected by that incident.
Okay, thank you for that. A very comprehensive and a detailed report, which we appreciate. And you've touched on the Harbour Street, which I was going to mention. That was a swift and professional action at the fire at the block of flats at the harbour. There was no injuries, which was an amazing. It was a job very well done, very professionally handled, and I'd like you to pass on our thanks to your colleagues for a job well done. We're very, very appreciative of that here in Nairn. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Chair. I'll definitely pass that on. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. I'd like to open it up. Councillor Oldham.
Yes, thank you, Nick. Thanks for the report. I just wondered whether you could tell us where you are with recruiting. I think we talked about this last time. And I see you've got 20 members now, of which 19 men and 1 woman. Just wonder how you're finding recruiting.
In Nairn, we're doing quite well. So specifically the Nairn station, which is the only one in this area, we're at full capacity right now. And in fact, essentially, I've almost got a couple on a waiting list that should any vacancies arise, then we are constantly getting interest within Nairn, which is very lucky. Other stations I'm working with, we're not in that same position. So Nairn is good. Even within the 20, I think within the report, the 20 that we have, we can see our availabilities of the 2 appliances we have. You know, we define them as our first appliance and second appliance, but ultimately what we always want to do is to get them both available as much as possible. But with having our first appliance available over 98% of the time and our second over 71% of the time is a credit to all the crews in the Nairn station who work so hard to maintain their availability, and they work together as an excellent team to provide that cover for the community as much as possible while they try and balance their day jobs, their family lives as well, and it's a credit to the station and the crew members of Nairn station. So right now for recruitment, a very good position for Nairn.
Great, thank you.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Councillor Jarvie.
Yes, you've just covered what my question was about the availability, so thank you for that, and great to see statistics improving and keeping everyone safe, and just reiterating how well the resilience plan has kicked in during that fire, how we all worked together. And I was panicking because it was a Friday afternoon, and how quick do these things kick in when it's heading into a weekend. And it really was so well organised. Everybody there got help and attention, lives saved, and it boarded up. A credit to every one of you involved. It truly was swift, without a doubt, with a capital S. So many thanks for that.
Thank you very much, Councillor.
Here. Yep. Promise.
No comments. A good report. Everything's fine. The fire at the harbour is a tragedy. Have you actually got a cause of the fire for that yet?
Unfortunately, with regards to that incident, I did follow up with that recently just to see where we were with that. But due to the nature and the ferocity of the fire, and we were really unable to carry out any kind of investigation. One of the main concerns as the fire developed, and I was there at the time, we were watching the cracks in the gable ends developing at quite a rapid speed. We believe it was, I think, in one of the upper flats was where it started. The information I've got, so therefore it just wasn't safe for us to commit anyone in there to carry out an investigation. So I'm afraid we don't have an answer for that one.
Okay, no, thanks. That's fine though.
Okay. Well, thank you once again. As I say, that was you guys did so well, and we're so appreciative. So again, pass on to your colleagues. Thank you, and thank you for your report. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Now, we're moving on to item 6, which is the exclusion of the public. So can we ensure that everybody who doesn't need to be here is logged off?
Okay, good morning, members. I'm just going to share my screen quickly with you.
Yep.
Hopefully my presentation is up in front of you now.
Yep.
Yes.
It is, okay. So the report in
you.
front of you, members, presents the proposed Nairn Harbour Active Travel Footpath link. The Highland Council Active Travel team, we've been working on this project with the Nairn Access Panel, and the purpose is to provide an improved access to the harbour and pier by walking, wheeling and cycling, and to anybody with a mobility aid also.
Absolutely. Okay. Okay, so
the proposed footpath is going to connect from the west side of the Sundancer, just where my cursor is at the moment. It'll pass behind the Sundancer restaurant and continue behind the boatyard, where it will connect into the harbour car park. There'll also be a small...
Sorry, can I interrupt you? I'm only seeing your first slide. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah, mine's not moving on past your title. Sorry, Alan.
Okay, is that it now?
Yeah, that's better.
Yes.
Okay,
No.
okay.
Oh, yes. I'm on it. I'm on it. Thank you.
Let me just go back. Okay, so the proposed footpath will run from the promenade path at the west of the Sundancer restaurant. It will go round the back of the Sundancer, following the coastline, and connect into the harbour car park. The section at the harbour car park will be, the parking bays will be realigned, and a sort of green thermoplastic surface will be introduced along the barrier to connect into the pier. There are some other improvements that we plan on the route. Some of these are public realm improvements with new benches, new picnic tables, and some cycle storage to the west of the Sundancer, and also in this more centralised area. Our plan is to have the project installed within the financial year. If there's any questions, I'll happily take them from members.
That's great. Thank you, Alan. I think this is a wonderful development, and it's a credit to both yourself and the Active Travel team, and to Seamus McArdle and the Access Panel. The Access Panel is a small group, but they certainly know how to deliver projects, 170,000. And this should act, I think, as an inspiration to other groups and associations as to what a well-led group of motivated individuals working collaboratively with officials can achieve. So once again, well done, Alan, to you and your team, and well done to Seamus and the Access Panel. So I'll open this up for comments. Councillor Oldham.
Thank you, Chair. Other than joining you and welcoming this, I think I've got a lot to say. I think I was slightly surprised it cost £170,000, but I guess that's just what it costs, and that's fine. We've got the funding, so that's good.
Yep.
Yeah, I would just On that point, we are finding that a lot of our construction work is coming in at a much higher cost at the moment. With this project, we've also secured £70,000 from Paths for All. So some of it will come from Paths for All. The rest of it we're luckily going to take from UK shared prosperity funding.
Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Jarvie.
Yeah, this is overdue, and I was actually down there when your chaps were, looking at the layout with them, Seamus and that, and they're following the paths of desire. It's a route that people are already using, and the bit behind leading to the harbour, the actual wall. It's unbelievable how that hasn't been addressed before, because people are having to move behind parked cars. The only thing I would request is that the remarking of the disabled bays where that new safer bit is going in, for disabled people, can it go up the harbour end, might be wiser, as it's a flatter, more level surface for them getting in and out of their vehicles, because the other end is kind of a slope, a sloped angle. So just so that's a safer and easier option if there's disabled bays going in there, which I hope so. But it's a cracking view. View.
Yeah, what I'll do on that is I'll have a chat with the project design unit. They're looking at the best options for, the realignment of the car park, and obviously for the walking surface, the painted thermoplastic surface. We'll have a look at those options and also the disability parking options as well, and we'll then provide members with the updated plans.
That'd be great. Okay, thank you. But okay. Great project. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, one other thing. It's a thing that was raised by a member of the public about cyclists, kind of like a courtesy of people concerned about cyclists going a bit fast down the link. So maybe we need to look at the whole thing a bit of signage. Okay.
Yeah, I had a very quick chat with Lewis on this, and we are going to look at some signing options. What we'll try and do is take that from the active travel capital funding and see if we can work with Roads Call to come up with a solution.
Okay.
Great. Thank you. Okay.
Provost?
No, that's all fine.
Okay. Okay, in that case, Alan, thank you. And again, a job well done, and look to develop more in the future. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, members.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Right. Okay. We'll now move on to item 9, which is the Nairn Common Good Harbour Street consultation and proposal. Sarah.
Morning, members. Yes, we completed the community empowerment consultation in respect of the small strip of land that's adjacent to the Seaman's Hall title, between the Seaman's Hall title and the former Gasworks title. Green Hive were looking to acquire that as part and parcel of their development of the Seaman's Hall. There's a lengthy and detailed report before you, members. I'm not proposing to go through it in a massive amount of detail. You'll have had the opportunity of seeing the responses, the representations and the responses. There's also attached there at Appendix 2 a copy of the plan that was in the consultation document, so that you can see exactly the area that's being discussed. And also, finally, the last attachment reflects the response that we received from Green Hive when we asked some specific questions to them during the course of the negotiations, and it sort of encapsulates what their hopes for the use of the land might be. So unless there's anything that's not covered in the report, I'm happy to take any questions. If there's anything you need clarifying at all, members.
Okay. Thank you for that, Sarah. I quite agree. You've effectively and comprehensively addressed the issues raised in the consultation, and there were a lot of issues raised. So I appreciate your efforts on that. So if you look at section 2.1, we're asked to note the outcome of the consultation process. Is there any comments? We'll go through this numerically. So we'll do it to note. Is there any comments on consultation process undertaken as contained in Appendix 1. Councillor Oldham, have you any comments on the consultation process?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can you just explain exactly how we're going to do this? I'm not sure when I want to say what I want to say.
Well, we're going to run through, we're going to note the consultation process, approve the response, and agree to dispose, and it's in section 5.3 where the options are, and we can run through the options at the end, whether to dispose for zero, not to dispose, or to put a nominal value on it. So we'll go through the process and then we'll come to the decision-making part in part 3 if we agree to dispose it. So it's more to talk about the consultation just now and then to approve the responses raised in connection with the proposal. So if you want to talk about the consultation process, if you have any comments to make there, now's the opportunity.
Okay. I did think, I mean, as is the way of these consultations, there are lots of comments which are not entirely relevant to what we're talking about. I was concerned about some aspects to this, especially the comment by Nairn Western Suburban that was saying that the disposal for nil value would deliver no value to the Common Good Fund. And as I think I demonstrated when we talked about Grant Street Yard last time, I'm concerned as a custodian of the Common Good Fund that our concern is to get best value at all times. And when I look at what very little we've actually got from Greenhive in terms of what they're proposing to do, which I was surprised, I was expecting to see more. I'm a little leery about what we are being invited to do here. I'll come back to that a bit later because I think I do have some proposals to make on this. But can I just confirm that we are definitely looking to that Greenhive would carry all the costs that we've incurred to date to do this consultation and also the legal costs of the transfer.
Sarah,
Do you wish
could you
me?
give us some clarification there, please?
Yes, I mean, certainly as far as the consultation is concerned, and I mean, the legal costs are slightly different, but usually we would expect any purchaser to bear the legal costs in a situation like this, but they certainly have agreeable to bearing the legal costs of the consultation. That's not going to cost the Common Good Fund. That will be billed direct to Greenhive. And I mean, I would say that they've done a certain amount of the work as it's reflected in the report. This is a piece of previously unidentified common good land. The difficulty that we have with common good land a little bit is all over Highlands there's these little tiny bits of land that really probably should be in title. Ultimately, that land should have fallen into one or other of the property titles with access rights granted to whichever was not the owning property title. It didn't, for whatever reason, which leaves it as a remnant of the borough land that formed all of that area originally of Nairn, and that was considered to be common good because it was given to the common good of the borough and then fewed out in various portions and parcels to people and then came out of council ownership. So it's not the only time we've come across this. It makes it quite a tricky situation, but Siemens Hall did all the title investigation, and Greenhive for Siemens Hall did all the title investigation because quite simply we were like, well, you know, we're not going to incur any costs in investigating the title. If you want to find out about it, instruct your solicitors, instruct the title investigation. And they did, and they happily shared it with us immediately, which is why we were able to identify the land. So they have already incurred costs without any pause or hesitation whatsoever in identifying title, and they'll certainly be paying consultation costs. I would expect them to pay the property transaction costs, but that's obviously something that is a discussion between the my conveyancing colleagues and their solicitor in due course if the proposal goes ahead.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you for that. No. Paul?
No, it's fine for now. I'll come back later.
Okay. I somehow think, and Sarah, I don't wish to be critical of your professional colleagues from days gone by, but this would appear to me potentially have been some conveyancing error that somebody just missed this. Who would know? You know, and to be spending inordinate amounts of time and resource, I quite agree with everybody here. It's not worth it. for a 1.5 metre strip of land. Gee whiz. But that's my thoughts. Councillor Jarvie.
Yes, thanks, Sarah. And I think it's the fact that Green Hive flagged up this piece of land and did the investigation. You know, it wasn't aware, and they're being very transparent about it. And you know, we're talking less than 5 feet. It isn't to the actual fencing with the neighbour, and the neighbouring business who you would expect to have concerns is supportive of it as long as they get access, and that's all, you know, it's amicable. It's a postage stamp that's litter ridden and weed ridden. What else is going to be done with that apart from collect more weeds and litter? I think if Green Hive can make this into an asset that enhances Harbour Street and helps make Seaman's Hall sustainable, I find that supportive. And if there's no cost to the common good going forward, the whole phrase common good, I see this as beneficial to the common good of the people of Nairn, because that's what Green Hive's about. So I'm tempted to go with it. The comment that sticks out with me is if something was to happen regarding Siemens, that the common good get first offer on that again. You know, it would come back, because we don't know what ideas might come forth in the future. That was the only one that I kind of queried about. Could that be tied into the sale?
Well, we'll
if
come on
Siemens
to the
was
sale.
ever to be sold on,
No,
if it failed.
Sorry, Babs, we're just talking about really the consultation, the process.
All
We'll
right,
come on to
okay.
that next, about what the options are and any burdens you may want to put on it.
Okay, sorry.
Provost. No.
My thoughts on consultation is very good, because it gives us a whole chunk of work that's been done there that we can use in future consultations to try and speed things up. It's sort of, we're laying the ground rules for future consultations, which should make things easier, maybe less controversial in the future. So otherwise, I'm in favour of passing it on anyway, Michael.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that, Provost. My own thoughts are, irrespective of what happens to the Seaman's Hall, and you wish that endeavour well, you're cleaning up the title, and it seems quite equitable that half to the gas board, half to the Seaman's Hall, and it just, I would say, tidies up the title so that whatever happens to the Seaman's Hall in future, they're not going to have to jump through hoops and be held up for years. So we'll come now to, well, we've noted and approved the responses. I think we just have to approve that. I don't think there's any comments required for that unless anybody wishes to say anything. Okay, on that basis, we'll now, and I would take the opportunity, thank you, Sarah, for all that, because that was an awful lot of work. We'll now come down to section 5.2, I think it is, for our options, and there are 3 options, which are to agree the proposal to dispose of the land for nil value, agree the principle following consideration and any sum you may wish to put on it, or to actually decide that the proposal should not go ahead. So it's your thoughts. If there's anything, Councillor Oldham, do you want to make comment first?
Yeah, I think given what I've said already. So what's that for?
That was Laurie's phone.
Okay. Given what I've said already, I would be minded if other councils are agreeable that we should be trying to at least get some benefit for the common good out of this. I noticed that Sarah's just the sum of £500 would not be unreasonable plus costs. I'd like to suggest that we go on that road, if I have a seconder.
Okay. Well, I'm supportive of that approach as well. Councillor Jarvie, what's your thoughts?
As they've already shelled out already, and they're covering costs going forward, I think 500 is reasonable.
Okay, Provost?
No, I would have given them for nothing. The original report said it was of no value, and they've done all the legwork for it. So I'm inclined to say give it to them for nothing. because there's not actually, that value was not placed on it the first time.
Well, we have a duty to get best value for the common good, so on that basis, and I think that's 3 in favour of £500, 1 against. Is that an accurate summation of the situation? So on that basis, can we get agreement that we will proceed with the disposal for £500? Agreed?
Yes.
What happens if Green Hive refuse? Because it was indicated before it would be a transfer at no cost or no value.
If I can just Chair, I think what will happen next is that the strip of land will be offered to sale by our Property and Estates colleagues for £500, and it will be then up to Green Hive whether or not they wish to accept that offer. Okay. Or make a counter offer.
Okay, well that's fair enough. I think there's what was stipulated earlier, I'm not quite sure, but we have to get best value for the common good, and I think there's majority prevails here. So on the basis of a 3-to-1 decision, we'll go with that and we'll see how that plays out. So on that basis, thank you, and thank you for that, Sarah. We'll move on to item 10 now, is it? Which is the Common Good Fund Monitoring Report. Okay, Lewis, do you want to say a few words on that?
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Yes. This report provides information on income and expenditure in relation to the Nairn Common Good Fund as at 30th June 2023, in line with previous reports of this committee. And the paper also provides an update on current Common Good Fund matters, particularly in respect of ongoing feasibility studies and other project work. And invite members to scrutinise, note the position of the Common Good Fund as shown in the Q1 monitoring statement. There's a range of information in this report, Chair. I'm not going to go through all in any detail, but rather I would invite questions, of which I'm happy to take.
Okay, thank you for that. I think the best way to deal with this is we deal with the income first and then the expenditure. So we'll go round my colleagues, and we'll, if you're happy and in agreement with that, we'll talk about the expenditure first. So I'll come to the Vice Chair. Paul, have you comments or any questions you wish to make on the income?
Yes, I do. At the last paragraph of 4.3, it says that the committee is asked to agree that any capital receipt from the sale of the site is ring-fenced used against the Nairn Common Good Fund capital project. I believe that that's now been overridden by the additional item 15 and item 5.3. Would that be correct?
No, that's not correct, Councillor Oldham. The intention is, or what's being asked of the committee, is to ring-fence the capital receipt in respect of Burnett Street Yard as a start of the capital project budget for Harbour Street redevelopment, and then item 15 would be in addition to that when we get to it on the agenda.
So you're looking for both the ring-fence money for this and also from the Community Regeneration Fund?
Yes, as a starting point for the capital budget, I fully expect that the required capital budget, once the feasibility study works is complete, will be significantly higher than both of those sums combined.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that.
Right.
Okay. Councillor Jarvie, on the income, have you anything you wish to say?
It was about Paul's question, but that's fine. Lewis has covered that. Thank you, Lewis. That's good.
Okay, Rollins?
No, yeah.
Okay. Right, the only thing I wanted to put at this stage was that regarding the sale of the Grant Street land, there's a report coming back to the committee once the feasibility study into the toilets and the redevelopment site has been completed, and that feasibility study has been covered by the place-based investment fund. So it's not the common good that's paying for that, it's a place-based investment fund. So the monies that we're accruing is put together for the development phase of the project. But the feasibility study has been done by the place-based fund, which is great because it's saving the common good money, but it's a common good project. So we'll come on to the second part of this question, which is on the expenditure. There's a lot in there, so I'll open that again. Councillor Oldham.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Are you going to comment on the splash pad issue and the other costs that we discussed before this meeting?
The splash pad will be covered by Lewis at, that's on item, I think that's 14, is it? Yeah.
Can do, Chair.
Well, we'll come to the splash pad at item, was it item 14?
It's item 14, Chair. There's an item for noting in terms of how the more discretionary fund is being used. It might be worthwhile just discussing any questions members have on the splash pad maintenance issue now, if there are questions.
If there's questions to be raised, Councillor Oldham, do you wish to raise a point on the splash pad expenditure?
I'm just a bit concerned as to, I mean, this is obviously going to be a recurring cost. I wonder whether this was agreed and when it was agreed that costs associated with the splash pad will fall into the common good fund.
Okay. Pick that up. Yeah. So because the splash pad is a common good fund asset, the maintenance costs in respect of it, as with the other common good fund assets, is picked up and covered by the common good fund property maintenance budget. That decision in terms of the operating model of the splash pad predates me and was taken out of previous instances of this area committee by the previous members, but certainly the maintenance costs will be met by the common good fund. But in this occasion, I took the decision to split that, what I see as a one-off cost of the specialist clean that was carried out this summer, split those costs between the property maintenance budget and the more discretionary fund. I see the requirement to maintain the splash pads as very much an ongoing pressure. I hope to be able to find a different way to carry out that maintenance in a way that will not require that specialist clean again, which was why I decided to split it between the more discretionary part of the common good, because I do see that cost as a one-off cost. I'm hoping to have further discussion with property maintenance colleagues and Highland about what works could be done throughout the year to try and carry out more regular maintenance rather than that specialist clean, which was, I think, after 2 or 3 years of operation. So that's my intention, Councillor Oldham, in that regard, if that makes sense.
Lovely, thank you. Can I just have a wider issue here? As I understand it, what we're saying, we're in a situation where Team Hamish are building assets on common good land, and they're providing the funding for that. But what you're saying is that the ongoing maintenance for those assets, once they're in place, will be incurred by the common good fund. Presumably, this will also apply for the phase 2 development, as we talked about earlier. Would that be correct?
Yes, that is correct, Councillor Oldham. Any development that any community group proposes to make on the link to any other common good land or asset will need to come to area committee for member decision, and at that point members will be able to scrutinise the ongoing maintenance liabilities that these projects bring. And that, like I say, was a historic discussion and decision taken by this committee in respect of the splash pad, but you're quite right that the same thing will apply to the Team Hamish phase 2 project, which we mentioned earlier on.
Okay, thank you. I'd just also like to...
Sorry, Paul.
I'd also like to...
Sorry, carry on. Sorry, no, carry on, Paul.
I'd just like to remind members to bear this in mind when we talk to the Arthur Sear Memorial people. This is something that's concerned me from the start, that the sustainability of that memorial, and we do need to bear in mind that this is likely to be the same situation there, and we just need to have it in the back of our minds when we look at any new project on common good land. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, I just think we just need to be, we don't want to walk into this blind.
No, I totally agree with you. I don't think that we should have a default position whereby anything that's done in common good, we inherit the liability, the ongoing liability. Absolutely not. We will have a frank and open discussion on every application that comes to us, and if we are not happy for whatever reason, I'm just talking in general terms, if we're not happy for whatever reason, then we'll go back to the folk who are looking to site this on common good property, and we should have these type of conversations, and certainly with Team Hamish early on, because I don't think it's fair, because these are quite big projects, and to pick up an ongoing liability for these things, working in collaboration, I think means many things. So, sorry, Lewis.
No, thank you, Chair. Just another point I should add in respect of the Team Hamish Phase 2 project at the links. It has been designed to try and eradicate as much maintenance requirements as possible. The materials that have been chosen for the design are hoped to be as maintenance free as they can be, although I don't think anything is actually maintenance free, but that has certainly been one of the key themes when the design's been put together. But again, that design work predates me and predates most of yourselves as well. But as you said, Councillor Oldham, the project is now through planning and we're looking to progress.
Okay, that's fine. Right, Councillor Jarvie, have you anything to say on expenditure?
Yes, I'm kind of with I think Paul and I are tuning in here today together, but yes, it's just that the cost. I do agree with having that maintenance thing done to keep it going. The worst thing down the links is when you see things not repaired that are out of service. It's a poor show for Nairn. So to have that done is excellent. But it's like, how frequently will this need done? And the fact that people are coming here and that is totally free. And we have costs like this attached to it. I wonder, going forward with the whole Hamish projects, which are absolutely fantastic, I totally support them, if we maybe need like an invitation to pay thing for people down there, so there is a choice, not a parking meter, but that kind of system, so there is opportunity to contribute. Quite honestly, if my kids were little, I would be through there taking them to that. I used to constantly take them to the paddling pool, you know, and they had so much fun. I would have gladly chipped in a few quid just for, I've had a great day with my kids. And I'm grateful to keep this going and to keep it just to cover that maintenance. You know, because remember, common good's not just for the links. There's other areas in Nairn that, you know, that are fund and ward discretionary budgets. There's other areas that need things addressed and nice things done to them. But I just wonder if that's maybe we could maybe have a conversation with Sam and Team Hamish about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. But I think Councillor Oldham made a sensible point, and I've agreed with it, and I think we all have agreed with it, that we don't unilaterally accept liability for anything that's going on. So each decision is made individually by the four of us. So, Lewis.
Thank you, Chair. Thanks, Councillor Jarvie. I think that's a particularly good idea, and I'm happy to take that away and speak to colleagues to see how we could put some kind of invitation to pay voluntary donation scheme in place in respect to those that use the splash pad. I'm not quite sure what that would look like, but I certainly think it would be worth exploring. Happy to take that away.
A chip and pin card or a QR code, maybe.
Yeah, there's ways to do it. So.
If you look at the Highland Folk Museum, which has been a resounding success, the sort of feedback from there was that they get twice the donations, you know, the income and donations that they would get if they charged a comparable fee for what's been charged for admission elsewhere. So it does work. So that's an excellent suggestion, actually. In fact, we can roll that out through quite a lot of places.
I'll bring something back to this.
Aye, okay, that's good. No, that's good. Promise.
I just remind all that for the last sort of 20-25 years, we've been paying out 3,000 to 4,000 every 2 to 3 years, repairing the old paddling pool. So cumulatively, paying £7,000 every couple of years, it's I know it sounds bad at the time because it's a large sum, but in comparison to what's gone in the past, it's probably the same or equivalent to. So we just maybe need to try and flatten it out a bit over the years to get a more level sum paid per year.
Yeah, my concern is that it's still fairly new equipment. It's really good kit, but at some point repairs are going to need required. And I imagine that's going to be high price tags. I just hate seeing things with taped up out of use. When things are broken, we need to be able to have it fixed straight away so that the funds need to be there.
Councillor Jarvie, 100% agree with you. There's nothing worse than a kit, very expensive kit, that starts to deteriorate and is not maintained. But the decision was taken by a previous committee that they would take that cost ongoing. So, yes.
I should also say, Councillor Jarvie, thanks for inviting me back in, Chair, that our property maintenance budget does factor in some amounts for splash pad maintenance, and this year we did replace some of the pump and jet equipment as well when we were doing the refresh at the start of the year. So it's a facility that we're particularly proud of. That was, and I'm very keen to see it running as it should do. Very keen to see it looking its best, and that was what was behind that one-off clean. But like I say, we're going to try and find other more regular and less expensive ways to maintain the appearance of it going forward. And I think Councillor Fraser, your point was well made as well, that I think the footfall of the splash pad benefits the links area, benefits Nairn. Whenever I'm down there, there's massive amounts of families enjoying it that are feeding income into the other businesses round about. So, yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine. So we'll move to the recommendations. And the first one is note the position of the Nairn Common Good Fund as shown in Quarter-One Revenue Monitoring Statement against the budget. And second, agree the income received in 23-24 from the sale of the Grant Street Yard and store, as detailed in item 7 in the agenda, be ring-fenced for the development of the Harbour Street former public toilet site. So, are we agreed?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Yes.
That's right. Thank you. We'll come back to this in the last item, but we'll move to item 14, which is just for noting that was the minutes from the 15th of May, which were approved by the Council on the 29th of June. So, noted?
Yep, noted.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Now, we'll go to the last item. Fiona, is Fiona here?
Morning, members.
Fiona, delighted to see you. This is the Community Regeneration Fund. It's also a delight to see you here at the Nairnshire Committee. You must be one of the most popular people in the Highlands, supporting projects across the whole of the Highlands. So, this is another good news story. So, if you want to give us just a brief outline, update, the paper's in front of us, but just give us a brief update.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I will keep it fairly brief and then I'm happy to answer any questions members may have. But you will remember from last year that there are a number of funds coming to the Council that my team administer. Some of these funds, most notably the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, the Place-Based Investment Programme and the Highland Coastal Communities Fund, are funds where councillors can make decisions on project approvals. And we also have the community-led local development funding, which sits out with the council with a strategic local action group for decisions. So we were made aware that members have I think as you discussed earlier, have a feasibility study that was underway for the Harbour Street toilets, and that was seen to be a member-led strategic priority for funding this year. So the paper we've brought to you today is to ask if members would consider ring-fencing the amount that's available from the Place-Based Investment Programme and Highland Coastal Communities Fund, which, as noted in the report, is just over £57,000. And that would be ring-fenced for the Harbour Street toilets, subject to a full application coming back to committee at a later date for approval of those funds. So the decision we're asking members about today is the ring-fencing of the funds, not actually the approval of the application. But if members do wish to do that today, that just means we are aware of what the intention is for your funding allocations this year from these two specific funds, and it allows us to take forward work that way. So I will just stop there. I think as you mentioned, Chair, the information's in the report, but if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Okay, I'll widen this out for discussion. Councillor Oldham.
No, I'm good, thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councillor Jarvie.
Flushed with excitement that there's money for the loos, and I think most of Nairn will be too.
Okay, thank you for that levity.
That's fine.
Promise. No. Okay, I'd just like to outline here, for the avoidance of doubt, the process here, because there is a process, and it's the council design and construction team. They're developing options for the redevelopment of the whole site. It's not just toilets. There'll be another unit as well, however that's coming back. and that has been covered, as I've said earlier, by the place-based investment. Second point is we've already allocated the receipts from the sale of the Grant Street Yard to go into the capital budget for this project, and now we're ring fencing, hopefully we'll agree this, 57,700 of the community regeneration funding. So we're building up capital to cover the development which will generate income long term for the common good and also enhance the facilities down at the harbour, something that we're pushing forward and will do as a priority. So there is a plan, it's starting to come together, and I'm delighted to propose the recommendations, which are: we note the standard delivery approach to the Community Regeneration Fund, and second part, consider and agree to ring fence the allocation of 57,748 Community Regeneration Funding 2023-24 towards Nairn Harbour Street former public toilet site redevelopment, and request that full application for funds to be considered at a future committee. So, are we all agreed on that?
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, on that note, I think that's everything. Is there anything anybody wishes to raise or any points? I think we've had a good meeting, a busy meeting, a lot of good stuff on the agenda today. So if there's nothing else to say, I'll thank you, Babs and Paul, and thank Fiona if she's still there, and we'll call it a day at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, cheers. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.